Hi everybody, this is Linda with Overbrook Quilt Connection, and this is block 20 of Moda's Stitch Pink. Today's block is called Blow Me a Kiss, and it's a very simple block. We're going to be repeating the same step over and over to make this block. It's a 2.5 inch center with rectangles sewn on either side, and then you put your little accent squares on either side of the top and bottom and sew it together, and you do that over and over. You sew the sides and the squares to the top and bottom, and you just continue to make a square in a square in a square in a square. So when you're planning this out, it starts with a color on either side and then your background on the top and bottom. Then in the next ring, it is the background on the sides with the color on the top and bottom. And then it alternates like that all the way through to the outside. So for prep work, I sewed my accent squares to the ends of each of my top and bottom bars. Now, when you're planning this out, there are 5 different places, 5 different places where colors are used, and 5 different places where your background is used. So you can plan this out however you'd like. You can make this totally scrappy with every single bar a different fabric. You can make it all coordinated if you want. I mean, you can use the exact same fabric throughout. But I kind of did a progressively lighter to darker plan. So this was my lightest, and then this one was my next, and so on until it goes out to the darkest one that I used. So I'm going to sew a couple of rings together, and then I'll come back and show you, where I am at the next step. I have completed 2 rings here, and one thing to remember is you're always going to be sewing a white to a color and a color to a white, because once you have it in a square, it's pretty easy to, it'd be pretty easy to put the wrong color next to it. So just remember that as you're, when you have a color, a white goes next to it. When you have a white, a color goes next to it. Also, for pressing purposes, I pressed the first rectangles that I put on, I pressed those towards the center. And then the seams of my little accent squares, I press towards the accent square. And then when I put my, first set on, I press them in. When I sew my second, the top and bottoms on, I press it out to kind of, make the bulk go different directions. So the next step, then I will be putting these colored sides on. You might want to check your math or check with your ruler to make sure your size is good. You'll know what size it should be by the size of the strips you're getting ready to sew on. So this, after 2 rings, it should measure 6.5 inches. So yeah, if you're somebody that struggles with your seam allowance, checking it after each round to make sure that you're staying in size is a good idea. Also, these seams should nest where your little corners come together, so that should help you match that a little bit. I'm going to finish putting my rows on, and I'll come back and show you the finished block. Our block is done. Here it is finished. Well, let me put my camera up just a little bit so you can see it better. So here it is finished. And a couple more thoughts I had about this. when you're pressing, don't get so aggressive with your pressing that you stretch your fabrics out. You know, be sure it's nice and flat. You know, make sure you don't leave pleats, I guess you'd call it. Make sure you know, you get it pressed out good and you don't have any folds there, I guess I should say. Because, you know, as you progress, your edges could start getting bowed in, or if you're too aggressive with it, you could stretch it in, your sides could start bowing out a little bit. So be sure and check your size. I would say check your size after every ring and make sure that you are staying at the right size. But anyhow, it's a fun block to make and pretty simple. And I hope you like it. I hope you have a good time with yours, and we will see you back tomorrow.